Welcome back, listeners, to this episode of the Mindful Journey podcast. As you all know, I'm your host, Sana, and for today's episode, we are talking about a very specific kind of stress where your job title it still exists, but then your sense of direction does not. You're doing the work, you're doing everything to make sure that you get the best output there, best result there. You're showing up, but then inside, you're like, why does this feel so off? And if that's you, this episode is a deep breath and a reality check. Not a motivational poster, but we are going to get practical, we are going to get honest, and we're going to explore a couple of takes you might not love at first because growth is not always cute and comfortable. Well, a quick note, this is not mental health or a medical advice. It's a conversation, lived experiences, insights. So take what helps and leave what doesn't. And let me share a bit about my guest with all of you. My guest today is Sienna Dean. Now, Sienna helps audiences bridge the gap between purpose and performance. She has worked in learning and development for over 5 years and supported 500 plus professionals in clarifying goals, communicating value, and also building careers rooted in meaning and momentum. She's also a senior alumni engagement manager at Management Leadership for Tomorrow, leading a national network for over 10,000 diverse leaders and facilitating 100 plus conversations on growth, leadership, and equity. So she has a front row seat to what modern careers actually look like, not the fantasy version. Sienna, welcome to the Mindful Journey, and I'm really happy to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here today and for this conversation.
Wonderful, wonderful. Sienna, let's get into it. So let's start blunt, like, when someone says my career is off track, what do you hear beneath, like underneath that? Is it boredom, burnout, identity crisis, or financial pressure, or all of it?
Right, that's what I was going to say. Is there all of the above option? So it it tends to vary between person to person, and it could even be a combination of those things. So really, it's getting at the heart of it. Are you veering off track, or is it a feeling, or do we actually have to do some realignment to make sure you're reaching your goals? Or maybe you're on track financially, but it doesn't look like what you envisioned, right? So oftentimes the careers we envision don't match our reality. And how do we realign with that?
Hmm. Hmm. That makes sense. And how can someone tell the difference, between um that a normal growth stretch? They can be
Mhm.
uh, it can it can be like a trough or maybe a bell curve or any kind of, progression in there versus the realization that I'm ignoring a real misalignment here.
Right. Yeah. So, what I usually do with my clients is have them step back and really think about that why. Why do you feel like you're veering off track? Why do you feel there's a misalignment? And I look for those patterns. Is it focused on self? Is it focused on this is where I thought I would be? Is it focused on outward affirmation, right? So, are you looking for, my friends are here. My parents tell me I should be here, or is it based on the skill set? Is it more of a tactical, reason why? Based on my skill sets, I value my position here, but I'm actually in this lower tier for some reason. So I really have them reflect back on why are they feeling this way and look for either the tactical, the emotional, or the outward, for the main purpose of why they're feeling they're off track. And then from there, I can help them pivot in various directions. I'm happy to go in based on those 3 categories on usually, if it is actually if they're veered off track or misaligned. So, starting first with the personal, and this is what I actually see the most often. It could be personally, financially, you need to make more. Personally, you know you can do more. So often, we aim for the title and we achieve the title, but you are not living to your full potential in that role. And so you still have this emptiness feeling. So when a client presents with those type of themes, then it's really taking a look at their role itself and seeing where can they add some additional opportunities to either enhance their skills or highlight their skills within their role. I'm a big proponent of, this mindset. Your role is fluid. You are very often we are not only doing what our job description says, right? So if you already have that flexibility, shape it to your strengths, shape it to the areas where you want to grow. And so with those people where it's often personal and not financial, just, they want more from their day to day, then I help them reincorporate the things that they're good at so that they have more of that fulfillment and feeling like they're back on track and they're moving forward for their own growth. If it is financial, that's when, we have to take a step back and see, is are there opportunities for you to be doing similar work in different industries or, maybe different parts of the organization, and that's a more tactical conversation, as well as if the motivations are tactical, based on the skills, I should be in this role, that's when we usually go that route. And, that's more resume building and things of that nature and working on their brand so that they can enter their next role. But the last category I really want to focus on is when the individual looks for outward affirmation, right? So oftentimes it's my friends are here. My, my parents told me should be here based on my degree. And that's really the internal when I have them reflect. We only have one life and you can only live it for yourself. And so that's when we do a lot more of the reflection and internal work so that they first figure out how to start living from themselves. Because if they keep chasing outward affirmation, they truly will never feel like they're on track because they aren't determining the track. So that's usually the approach I take there.
Hey, listeners, if you are enjoying the mindful journey, take 2 seconds to follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. It helps the show reach more people who need a softer, steadier space to land. And if he can leave a quick review, it seriously make a difference. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Hmm. Sina, when usually if like I can add some of my personal um, observations and experiences or some of the thoughts which I have is, we either, so there can be different schools of thoughts here. So on one school of thought is, yeah, either it's like, I have to upskill myself, or I have to really identify what exactly are my strengths, and then accordingly I can choose those roles. Probably with the organization, or maybe choose or look out for a better organization. Um, then sometimes life can actually throw you curveballs, which can kind of sometimes derail your career growth. And I have seen that happening. Now there are people.
More and more.
Wow, exactly. I mean, we are seeing so many people changing their industries, their careers, especially after COVID. And this is something now which has become like a mainstream thing, because probably before COVID, people would kind of, assume that, these are exceptions. But now I think the acceptance around this idea that maybe you have been working as a marketing manager in a big company, but then now you are becoming a content creator, or you're becoming a coach, or becoming a mentor, different, completely different, career streams. But then um, some people bounce back, some people kind of, yeah, as you mentioned, that they look out for external validations, and sometimes these validations can be so demotivating, because you may see maybe your friend who graduated along with you from the same college, or your schoolmate who got into like this big role, money and everything looks good, but then you are here, and that can create a lot of psychological pressure on you. um, in such scenario, how can someone have that first of all strength that yes, I still haven't lost anything. It's just a phase where, where I should actually look out for something better. Maybe success is not something which I should, kind of compare with my known, friends or people.
Yeah, no, you bring up an excellent point and something that really has become that fourth category, especially post pandemic, and even with the introduction of advancements in technology,
Oh,
where we are seeing layoffs at record number, record percentages. And so, oftentimes I am talking to people that just had to take what was available. And so they are now going down at least 2, 3 titles that they were before because at the end of the day, they're like, "I have to put food on the table," and how do you find your strength and find encouragement, during that time where it's just like, I am completely off the beaten path of where I was just a few years ago, and so that is very real, and in those situations, one, it's important to acknowledge how real it is, right? And so, oftentimes, we tell ourselves to dust it off, make the best of the situation, but for such for such situations at that magnitude, sometimes it is important to look outwards and just to understand the facts, right? Because oftentimes we still internalize when big things happen. Like, say a company, lays off 15% of their organization. But it's it's also important to stop just thinking about it from internal and a personal perspective, where like, what did I do wrong? In those situations, I actually have them think, look at where society is, right? So look at how this is happening across organizations and have them really look at the 360 viewpoint, above the clouds, to say, like, you are one of many. And surprisingly, that helps because it's no longer about, I was on this path and this happened to me. It's more so of this is a societal change and how do I prepare for that, the society that is continuing to move in that direction. So that's when I have them, even if they're in a role that isn't doesn't have the same title, isn't making as much time, making as much as they were before, what it does give you is time, right? And time is such a luxury where it's you now have the bandwidth if you are, doing a role that you can pretty much do in your sleep to focus on your comeback, right? And so that's when we really work on the professional development side of things of saying, "Okay, even when you were in that role that you thought you had success. Where's your dream role? And how can you use this time where, you might be doing less, making less, but you can think for the future. And so that helps them realign to their path and their purpose because they understand this is temporary. Where people often have trouble is, the pandemic happened now a few years back, and then they stay on that new trajectory. So now they're 3 titles back, and they're looking for that promotion and that promotion. I'm like, "No, that's not the race you were running. That's where, you ended up temporarily. You are still on the same path. You should be using this opportunity to get back to where you were trying to get to, before." And so, I have them actually look at their, current position as secondary, and primary is trying to figure out how to get back on to their end goal, and that will help change the narrative and the perspective, and help them feel that they're back on track. And I'm a firm believer that they are because I can speak from personal testament where, I have taken career step backs just because of life circumstances. And I really use that extra time to develop myself. And so now the role that I was able to get after that self-development and that training surpassed where I even was before. But if I use wherever I settled as the new marker for my success, I would stay behind. And that is what they can't do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you actually, kind of I could so much connect with you because especially that, feeling that now you are back on track. Because
Mhm.
it's not about that you're getting appreciation. Yeah, it's a huge part of, like people are appreciating your the way you're working. But I think it's more from the inside out that you get a kind of an inner self confirmation that yes, this is something where I'm feeling the spark that is giving me the motivation to wake up in the morning, or at any time as per your job or your work, and
Yeah.
you're feeling that fire within you, that zeal within you, that I should put more efforts into this. Maybe this is not looking good, this may not work, let me do something creative here, let me tweak it. These kind of ideas, they come up organically when you feel that zeal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Previously you mentioned that might have taken a step back and now you're on social. But for some people, that is the path they wanted to go to, right? And so they realize, like, actually, I have a story to tell. Maybe they are now they're doing podcast, or maybe, they're working on public speaking. It really allows you to figure out where is my end goal and what are all the different pictures that could look like. And where can I, add energy that I didn't have the time to do it before? And so you're creating this new story for yourself that allows you to eventually connect the dots to, and right back on the path you were on. So, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And see, another question comes to my mind. So, you know, let's say um you you wake up now and something is off, but you just can't quit. You have bills,
Right.
EMIs and all stuff. You have people counting on you. What is the first move to recenter, without doing any kind of a major overhaul or detonating everything?
Right. Oh my gosh. I have helped so many people with that, as well as I have been there. I just the personal reflection that hit home. I don't know if it's because of the holidays and sometimes you just feel overwhelmed during this season, but sometimes you look at yourself in the mirror and you realize I am not happy. And, part of you will want to burn everything down and start over. But really is just to take account what are the top areas where you are not happy. Right. So that's where I have them start, because oftentimes it's the little things that continue to build up. And then you realize I don't see myself in my life anymore. I don't know my purpose. But oftentimes when you sit back and reflect, you can pinpoint, okay, these are the top areas that really drain me. And, that's how I have them look at it. Are there moments in your day or in your week or even in your month that you're exposed to certain things and you just feel depleted? And I have them write those down. And however long is a list. I have seen lists as short as, these are my top 5 to these are the 30 things that drain me. I'm like, whoa, okay. Um, but then I have them, the first step is starting to remove those things off your list.
Mm.
You could be a manager that you find extremely draining and, you love the work, but they're derailing your process. How do you limit the amount of meetings? How do you take back control, how those meetings are run? How do you, start to think about pivoting so that you have less interactions with that manager because you have different responsibilities. So, you know, I think or the first step is always pinpoint where those stresses are, those moments of the feeling of depletion, and then figure out how you can remove those things. And even though your life might not feel perfect after doing those things, it gives you time to then plan to make a more permanent change in your life.
Hmm. Hmm. So listen, we if this is a simple audit, I think we are talking about a career reset sprint, like small inputs, but
Right.
with high ROI. And uh,
Yes.
I think, clarity, it's a personality trait More people would think, but I think it's not, because it takes time. Depends on person to person. So it is a process. Um, and also, let's just see. I mean, it's a bit of a nuanced kind of question. Uh,
Mm.
like, what if your career, it is not off track? What if you are just bored? Because this I can say from my personal account that uh, being in the same role for, let's say, 5 6 years, I mean, just year to year, kind of a basic growth is happening. It's like a very flatline growth. It's not even growth, it's just flatline. But then maybe we are addicted to novelty, or we keep calling normal discomfort like misalignment, because starting over, it really feels exciting. How do you challenge someone who might be chasing a reinvention high?
Yeah, no, excellent question. So there's two paths. Um, in the first, I have them think, or before they choose the path, I have them think about their responsibilities.
Yeah.
So if you are responsible for one, you don't have people counting on you, you can downsize your life, then I'm a huge proponent of trying new things. And, you only have one life. Life should be invigorating. And so in those scenarios, if you are bored, pivot. It's time to move on. You should be inspired by what you're doing because often boredom is still a sign, right? There's still that thing inside of you that's tugging that say, I can do more. Like each day or the majority of your days you should find inspiring. So if you have, limited people counted on you and you have that flexibility to adjust, I work on helping them make that adjustment. But if you, on the other hand, when you do have a lot of people relying on you and you do have responsibilities, then one, sometimes boredom is okay. Boredom allows you to divert your energy elsewhere. So, even though we spend the majority of our time at work, doesn't mean it takes all of our mental bandwidth. And so, if your job isn't fulfilling you, where are there other places that you can place your energy. So I can speak to personal and I actually I wasn't even bored. I have that type of personality where I have to keep moving. My brain has to constantly feel like it's taking on something new or I have this unrealistic boredom that I'm like, you should be satisfied. But my brain is like, you're not doing enough. And so love my role. And so I kept doing that, but then I looked for other ways to plug myself into my organization, right? So I started an ERG, I built relationships, right? And so I looked for other ways to make sure my job felt fulfilling. And that over time, I realized I didn't have time to be bored because I was pouring myself into all these different spaces, as well as, ask for stretch projects, ask for things to spice up your role. You talked about it feeling linear because you've been doing the same thing. Going back to what I said earlier, roles are fluid. Look for the, new innovative thing that's happening in your organization that, I'm sure they're always looking for volunteers. If you're passionate about it, raise your hand, figure out what other teams are doing, see where you can plug in. And especially when you know your end goal and the skills you're trying to obtain, if your role isn't giving you everything, figure out where you can get it from other parts of that organization. And that's great because it helps you build a brand within that organization that will help, lead to promotions and things of that nature. So that's wonderful. If you can't find that growth within your organization or that fulfillment to relieve your boredom within your organization, plug in elsewhere, right? And so if you are responsible for people, that might be the time to pour into your friend, pour into your family, right? And so then it really is just the 9 to 5. You're waiting to clock out, unfortunately, but you find so much fulfillment elsewhere that it balances out that feeling of boredom in your life because now you're having such rich relationships with friends and family, or you're looking for other activities, you're developing skills on the side, or you're plugging into your community, whatever. Think about really what fulfills you, and then how can you allocate more of your mental bandwidth to that versus, work if you're finding it boring and you can't naturally just make that shift right then and there.
Hmm. So we don't have to like jump onto a specific, trend um or like a culture. But I
Mhm.
think that it all comes back to what we want, what alignment looks like to us, not to someone else.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially when you said trends or culture, so often, especially when people come to me with that, they're facing that boredom. It's because oftentimes we amplify that boredom, right? So we aren't satisfied at work. What do? We go into social media. That continues to drain our energy, So there's spaces where I say, take back that power of feeling like your life is stagnant when you feel bored. Don't there's bored progressors and there's bored, um I can't think of the word that I wanna use, but ways to lessen the boredom, right? And so often, unfortunately, society moves in the direction of we just go deeper into that boredom where it's, oh, now work was stressful. Okay. After work, I'm going to spend hours watching TV that I don't really care about, or I'm going to spend hours online. And so, I really want to make sure that you're understanding, the audience is understanding. In order to remove that feeling, you really have to be intentional with your time. If you continue to give your time to things that aren't fulfilling you, you will continue to have that feeling.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point. That's a great point. Awesome, awesome. CLF listeners, if they would like to connect with you to get further guidance into this, seek more wisdom from you, and if they would like to share their thoughts as well, what would be the easiest way to connect?
Yes, so this was a lovely conversation. I'm happy we were able to touch on so many things, but I know, this is such a hot topic right now, and unfortunately, I feel like this is a space where we're going to be in for a long time, right? So as roles and industries continue to shift, but if you are looking to have thought partnership on, what the next stage of your career and life looks like, you can find me on LinkedIn, and on my LinkedIn has uh, reference points to other places in which you can find me. So you can find me at Sienna.Dean at LinkedIn, and that's where I post all of my updates on, any other ways that I can support and be beneficial to my community. So I look forward to connecting with you all.
Super, super. So, listeners, there you go. I'll have all the details and links to connect with Sienna in the show notes. So, just refer to along with this episode on whichever platform you listen to your podcast to. And let me share something. Before we conclude this episode. Um,
Mhm.
if your career feels off track, I would say do not panic pivot. Recenter first, get your data, get your support, get honest about what's yours and what's the system. And then make the next move, like a CEO of your own life, not like a stressed intern in your own brain. So, Sina, thank you so much for this really
Yeah,
practical and grounded and real conversation.
thank you. This has been truly lovely.
And listeners, if this episode hit home with you, share it with one friend who's quietly spiraling in the group chat. And if you want more mindful career conversations, hit the follow button on the Mindful Journey podcast with your host, Sana. And do share us what you liked, what you didn't like. And until next time, breathe, recenter, move with intention. Thank you.
Thank you.